2:17 a.m. Angles to Air Base. Look at Tu-160. Russia once flew this bomber to Venezuela to intimidate the world, but the U.S. exposed this weakness. And tonight, Ukraine finishes the job. They will turn the Tu-160 from a symbol of power into a strategic liability. In 90 seconds, the bomber's engine intakes will ignite in a catastrophic thermal event. At the same moment, a nearby stockpile of 16 Kh-1011 cruise missiles detonates in a chain reaction, wiping out the backbone of Russia's winter strike plans. This isn't a chance. It's a precision-programmed drone swarm that costs less than the watches on Russian generals' wrists, slipping through while billion-dollar S-400s chase decoys in the upper atmosphere. We aren't talking about hitting a tank or a fuel depot. We are talking about the heist of the century, an operation designed to snatch the soul out of Russia's nuclear triad. This is the White Swan. To Moscow, it's the untouchable symbol of Soviet-era glory. To the rest of the world, it's a $250 million relic. Remember when Russia flew these to Venezuela to scare the Americans? Washington didn't even flinch. They just watched the sensors and laughed at how loud and visible these birds actually were. However, for Ukraine, this is no joke. The stage was set 48 hours ago. Kiev didn't just get lucky. They deliberately ambushed a Russian transport convoy, moving this brand new Tu-160M. The strike didn't kill the bird, but it clipped its wings, forcing the Russians to park the damaged 20-ton behemoth right out in the open on the North Hardstand. Because of the chaotic state of Russian logistics, the specialized hangars aren't ready, and the most expensive aircraft in the Kremlin's inventory is currently a 270 million sitting duck undergoing emergency repairs under the stars. 200 decoy swarm, an S-400 waste AM, 600 meters deep into Russian territory. The air over the Volga River feels heavy, like the breath of a dying empire. 6 recon mini quadcopter drones are ghosting through a thick layer of river fog. They are looking for one specific shape, the elegant, terrifying silhouette of a Tu-160M. Moscow thought their invincible S-400 umbrella made it safe. They thought no one would dare touch the Swan. They were wrong. The stakes here are astronomical. If Ukraine pulls this off, they don't just destroy a plane, they paralyze the entire Russian winter strategy. Every Kh-101 missile sitting in the nearby hardened storage bunkers represents a cold night for a Ukrainian family. By targeting this base, K is playing a high-stakes game of strategic theft, stealing Russia's ability to project power before the first engine even turns over. The tension in the Ukrainian command center is suffocating. The scouts have the visual lock. The swarm is coming. 620 miles. In the world of strategic logistics, that's a long haul. But for 50 Ukrainian Beaver drones, it's a one-way trip to turn the Kremlin's most expensive toy into a very large, very flammable lawn ornament. Right now, these drones are screaming across the Russian heartland at a terrifyingly low 260 feet. This isn't just flying, it's nap of the earth trespassing. They are threading the needle along the Volga River, using the riverbanks and the thick morning fog as a natural stealth cloak. To the long-range, S-400 search radar scanning from miles away. These drones are invisible, literally hiding behind the curvature of the earth and the tree lines. But Ukraine isn't just relying on low-altitude hide-and-seek. They are playing a high-stakes game of electronic catfish. Suddenly, 10 specialized decoy drones break formation, the river clutter. Trap. Panzer blinded and pull into a vertical climb. They are screaming at the Russian sensors, "Hey, look at me, I'm a Storm Shadow cruise missile." And the Russians, they bite. Hook, line, and sinker. Inside the S-400 command vehicle, the radar screen turns into a strobing mess of red alerts. The commander, desperate to save the Tu-160M, doesn't wait for confirmation. He lets loose 4 48N-6E missiles. That's $8 million of Russian high-tech interceptors launched into the stratosphere to vaporize $50,000 worth of decoy plastic. It's the kind of ROI that would make a Wall Street short seller weep with joy. As the decoys disappear in fireballs 5 miles up, the Russian crews are likely cheering, convinced they've just intercepted a NATO-level strike. They have no idea they just swatted at ghosts. While the big eyes of the S-400 are looking at the stars, the teeth of the base, the Panzer S-1 systems, are waking up to a digital nightmare. The Panzer is supposed to be the ultimate swarm killer capable of tracking 300 targets. But reality is a lot messier than the brochure. The combination of the Volga's river clutter and the electronic noise from the dying decoys creates a sensory kill box. For exactly 45 seconds, the Panzer's fire control computer effectively has a seizure. The Russian operators are frantic, their turrets slewing wildly as they try to distinguish between a real threat and the environmental static. But here is the genius detail. The decoys were programmed to create the illusion of a high-altitude dive. The Panzer operators, following their training to protect the bomber spine, point their dual 30mm cannons toward the sky. They are so focused on shielding the White Swan from an imaginary overhead strike that they've left the low-altitude corridors wide open. Inside the Ukrainian mission control, the mood is dead silent. But here's the twist. Hidden in the long grass just 400 yards from the Tu-160M's massive landing gear, 4 shadows are holding their breath. This is an elite Gore sabotage unit. While the world thinks Ukraine is just sending robots, these guys are the boots on the ground for the most audacious heist in aviation history. They aren't here to blow it up. They are here to drive it home. They have the avionics bypass codes and a portable starter unit ready to wake up those NK-32 engines. For a few heart-stopping minutes, the heist of the century is actually on the table. They see the opening. The guards are staring at the sky. The Panzer turrets are slewing wildly toward the decoys. In the White Swan is momentarily the failed heist. Juar, operatives retreat abandoned. It's the ultimate Grand Theft Auto moment with a $4 billion nuclear bomber as the prize. However, the Kremlin's security layers aren't all digital. Just as the lead operative reaches for the boarding ladder, a high-frequency condition red perimeter alarm, separate from the air raid siren, shatters the silence. A Russian quick reaction force has just been triggered. The night air over the remote Venezuelan airfield hangs thick with tropical humidity and the low hum of idling jet engines. It's January 3rd, 2026, just hours after U.S. forces executed Operation Absolute Resolve, the lightning-fast raid that snatched Nicolas Maduro from his Caracas stronghold. The world is still reeling from the spectacle of over 150 American aircraft swarming the skies. But in this isolated hard stand on the outskirts of Maiquetía, a different drama is unfolding, one the Pentagon never planned. A single Tu-160 White Swan, Russia's supersonic strategic bomber, pride of the long-range aviation, sits gleaming under floodlights. It had been flown here months earlier as part of a last-ditch show of force, a symbolic middle finger to the gathering U.S. Armada in the Caribbean. Parked far from the main action, it was meant to be untouchable. Instead, it's about to become the target of the war's most audacious pivot. Think of it as the base's electronic sentinels stirring from slumber. In the distance, the roar of departing U.S. helicopters fades, but 3 shadowy figures, Ukrainian operatives embedded deep in the chaos, melt back into the jungle fringe like smoke. On a hardened tablet, the team leader taps a final encrypted sequence. Plan B activates. Telemetry lights up. 40 UJ-26 Beaver, long-range kamikaze drones, which had been lurking in silent orbit over the coast, now receive their kill order. These aren't waiting for hand-holding anymore. Their onboard AI, visual recognition hardened through months of strikes on Russian targets, locks onto the glowing infrared signature of the Tu-160. To the drones, those massive NK-32 engines are beacons screaming priority target. The airfield's Russian and Venezuelan security teams are still fixated on the aftermath of the American raid, scrambling to secure the perimeter, chasing ghosts in the grass, and treating the bomber like the crown jewel it was supposed to be. They never see the swarm coming. 2:47 a.m. The lead Beaver lacks emotion, but if it could feel, it would savor the irony. A relic of Soviet engineering about to be humbled by a swarm born from desperation and ingenuity. The drones execute a flawless, synchronized dive, hugging the tarmac so low their shadows scrape the asphalt. The real prize isn't the aircraft itself, it's the message. Inside the nearby Pantsir S-1 command vehicles, Russian-supplied air defense rushed here as a favor to Maduro. Panic erupts. Operators mash triggers in a frenzied barrage. Dual 30mm cannons roar, unleashing 5,000 rounds per minute in green tracer arcs that light the night like a demonic laser show. 18 Beavers erupt in brilliant fireballs, wings shearing off in spectacular spins. The Russians cheer for a split second, thinking they've turned the tide. But here's the brutal genius. The swarm learns. Each downed drone broadcasts its final telemetry, tracer trajectories, wind gusts, reload timings, shared instantly across the network via Mesh AI. The remaining 22 adjust in real time. Micro jinks, altitude pops, evasive splits that turn them into unhittable hornets. The formation fractures. They feint toward the bomber's fuselage, drawing fire skyward, then bank hard eastward, straight for the adjacent KH-101 missile depot. This is the true backbone. Stacks of cruise missiles, fueled and ready for potential strikes elsewhere in the hemisphere. 22 Beavers slam into the reinforced bunkers almost simultaneously. Impact. Jet fuel ignites in a roaring inferno, peaking at thousands of degrees. 60 K1-01s begin chain-reacting cook-offs, guidance suites melting, warheads detonating in secondary blasts that light up the horizon like a second sunrise. The depot becomes a glowing crater, Russia's regional strike capability gutted in seconds. But the swarm isn't done. 10 Beavers remain. They haul into a high-G reversal, wings groaning under stress, and line up on the Tu-160's intakes. Those engine throats, each a multi-million-dollar masterpiece, are now open graves. A desperate Russian sentry unleashes a PKM from atop a fuel truck, tracers whipping wildly. One Beaver tumbles in flames, skidding across the apron. The final 9 strike with surgical fury. Shape-charged warheads focus molten copper jets at hypersonic speeds, punching through titanium compressor blades. Blade-out events cascade. Shrapnel whirlwinds shred internals. Hydraulic lines burst like arteries. Fuel systems rupture. The White Swan doesn't erupt in Hollywood flames. Its tanks are light, but it suffers a catastrophic structural failure. Engine pods crumple, wings sag. The once mighty bird lists like a wounded giant. By the time the last Panzer claims a drone, the damage is irreversible. The 270 million plus Tu-160 is now a smoking monument to vulnerability. As the first U.S. follow-on aircraft streak overhead, they bear witness to a graveyard they didn't create, but one that underscores the new reality. The strategic fallout is immediate. Russia loses not just hardware, but prestige. Sanctions already choke engine production. Repairs could take years. The KH-101 stockpile wipeout erases dozens of potential sorties, sparing lives and infrastructure elsewhere. And the dominoes? Remaining Russian assets scramble north, dispersing to safer Arctic bases, stretching logistics, reducing sortie rates, and opening windows for other threats. Ukraine didn't need to own the bomber. They just proved that in 2026, even superpowers' crown jewels are fragile when swarms arrive uninvited. A tactical masterstroke, or Russia's most humiliating day since the invasion began. If you were commanding those defenses, would you double down on pride or pull everything back to protect the real assets? What tech stole the show for you? The adaptive AI swarm or the sheer audacity of the pivot? Drop your thoughts below. If you love watching underdogs rewrite the playbook, smash that like and subscribe for more breakdowns of the invisible war. Until next time.